Welcome to the ultimate guide to the reading section. And if you find the reading section challenging, you're in the right place because I'm going to share with you an overview of the reading section and some strategies and tips for finding success as you approach this section of the IELTS exam. So let's get started and talk about this ultimate guide to the reading section. First of all, let's just be aware of the format and what you're facing on test day. The reading section is 60 minutes long, and you're given 3 texts, and you're given 40 questions divided up over these 3 texts. And out of these questions, you'll face anywhere from 9 to 10 different question types. And you get 1 point for each correct answer, and you don't lose any points for any incorrect answers. So it's really important to know what you're facing on test day. For each of the 3 texts, you'll have 13 or 14 questions, and you'll want to be familiar with the 12 or 13 different question types that you could possibly face on test day. So it is a challenge, but becoming aware of everything you need to know about the reading section is very important and will go a long way for your success. It goes without saying that it is a challenge to get all of this done in 60 minutes. So your most important skill to be aware of is time management, because you'll want to be aware of every task that you have to complete when it comes to reading and skimming and scanning the text will take a certain amount of time. And then you'll want to be well aware of how much time you can spend for each question, because remember, the goal is to get as many questions correct as possible. So time management is probably going to be the thing that you'll want to develop as you practice each section of this test. And when it comes to time management, because you have 3 texts to deal with, and you have to do it in 60 minutes, it may seem quite obvious just to spend 20 minutes on each section. But the thing to be aware of is that each section becomes increasingly more difficult and challenging as you go. So it might be a better strategy to try and get through section 1 in 15 minutes and then spend 20 minutes on section 2 so that you can have 25 minutes available to do section 3, which could be the most challenging. So one of your goals is to make sure that you don't spend too much time on one question. Because you have, sometimes we have a tendency to get stubborn and we don't want to give up on a question. But remember, your task is to get as many correct out of 40 as possible. So you'll want to keep moving. And if you can't find the answer to a question, it's not really the end of the world. You want to get as many correct as possible. So keep moving. And if you do happen to have time at the end of the reading section left over, then you can go back and look for the answers to the questions you might have missed. So make sure that you're well aware of the time and use the clock. If you're doing the test on computer, there will be a running clock on your screen. If you're doing the paper-based and you're in a room with other candidates, there will be a clock on the wall. So make sure that the very first thing you do is write down the time that you begin your test so that you know exactly how much time you have from the time you started. So that's an important step to take. And just try to be as conscious as possible as you're doing the test. As the time is winding down, the invigilator in the room will give you a countdown maybe starting at 10 minutes and then 5 minutes and 1 minute. But it's your responsibility to be aware of the timing. Nobody's going to do this for you. So make sure that time management is an important part of your practice. And when it comes to practice, I would suggest that you have two goals. And when you begin practicing at first, just become aware of all the question types and the strategies you need, and make your first goal to increase your skill and your ability to answer the questions using the right techniques and strategies. And if you want to become aware of the strategy and technique for each question type, be sure to check the link in the comments with this video for my playlist, which includes a video for every specific question type and a strategy that you can use to manage those question types effectively. So as you begin to practice, just focus on gaining the skills you need and learning the techniques for each question. And once you're fairly confident that you know what to do for each question, then in your practice, begin to decrease the time. So maybe at the beginning of your practice, it may take you even up to 2 hours to do the whole reading section. But as you practice, then you begin to decrease the time until you can get it down to where you're effectively answering enough questions to get the band score you need in 60 minutes. So your first goal, increase your skills, and your second goal is to decrease your time. And this will get you the best score possible in the reading section. And when you can do it and get the score you need in the 60 minutes that you have, then you know you're ready for test day. So the first strategy I want to mention to you is that you do the questions first. It's the question first strategy. And when you come to a section in the reading exam, the only thing you want to look at when it comes to the text is the titles and subtitles. Just have a quick look. What's the title of the text that you're looking at? Are there any subtitles? And maybe underline them just to make sure you've seen them. But don't read any of the text. Just look at the titles and subtitles and then move directly to the questions. And just take a quick look at the type of questions that you're going to be doing. So get a quick overview of the question types. There may only be 2 different question types and possibly 3. So just get an overview of what you're up against. And then you look carefully at the first set of questions and you begin to mark some key words. You can underline them or you can circle them, and you can make notes in your test booklet. You can mark it in any way you can because you'll be answering directly onto the answer sheet. And the answer sheet is the only thing that the person marking your score is going to be interested in. So they're not going to be looking through your test booklet, so you can mark it and scribble in it and do anything you want in the notebook that's going to help you find the answers you need and narrow down your options and help you. So do whatever you like in the notebook and mark your keywords, the things that are going to help you to find the answers. But then as you go, you mark your answers directly into the answer sheet because you're not given any extra time after the hour is finished to transfer your answers from the notebook to the answer sheet. So you're answering directly onto that answer sheet. And once you've carefully looked at the questions, then you go to the text second. And this is where, once you've looked at the first set of questions and marked the keywords, now you skim the entire passage. Okay, you skim the entire passage because you only want to do it once. And as you're skimming, and skimming means to read every word as quickly as possible, you mark the key words, the same as you did in the first set of questions. Now, let me just tell you, when it comes to skimming and you're marking the key words, remember that you're not reading to understand everything. You don't have to understand everything because uh, your main goal is to just be able to identify the information you need to answer the question. So don't read too slowly or carefully as if you need to understand everything. And you don't have to remember anything. You'll be using the words that you mark as your source of information for answering questions. But when you skim the passage, skim the entire passage, and so that you only have to do it once. And that's when you'll be marking keywords. So let me give you an idea of the keywords that are important to mark in the questions and in the text. You'll always want to mark names. Maybe you'll circle all the names in the questions and in the text because often names are a good way to locate if you're in the right area of the text and looking for answers. Names are always a very good clue, and the same is true with dates and times. And you know, when I'm doing the reading section or working on a reading section, trying to develop the best strategy, what I've discovered is sometimes you can create your own code or your own legend for marking. You don't have to underline everything. You could circle names. You could put boxes around times and dates. You could put squiggly lines under numbers and measurements and straight lines under other types of words. But the key words that you're going to want to mark are names, dates and times, any numbers or measurements. And you're also going to want to mark adjectives and adverbs. And the reason that adjectives and adverbs are so important is they really make the information more specific. So, for example, if you're looking for the most influential or the least influential, then those adjectives, most and least, are very important, or the biggest, or the smallest, or the highest, or the lowest. These are all adjectives that narrow down the information to be more specific and more specific to the question that you're trying to answer. Adverbs do the same thing. So really be aware of adverbs and adjectives that can help you narrow down the specific information you're looking for. And what about words you don't know? Words that you've never seen before, maybe some technical terms. Well, the good news is you don't have to understand these words, but you can use them again to find key information. And if you have technical terms that are in the questions, these are words that are going to be exactly the same in the text and will help you locate if you're in the right area for discovering an answer. So you don't have to understand these words. You don't have to be familiar with them. You just have to use them as key identification points for finding the information that you need. And when it comes to keywords, one thing to be aware of is synonyms and paraphrases, because you'll receive prompts and statements and sentences that you have to finish in the different question types. And the words that you have in the questions may not be exactly the same as the ones you find in the text. They may be synonyms or they may be paraphrased. So the sentences might be structured slightly different in the questions than what you'll see in the text. But it's very important to be aware of this when it comes to finding the information that you need. I will make one point, however, and that's when you're asked to put a word in a sentence to complete it, or choose a word for a table or a diagram, you have to be aware that, and you'll see this in the instructions, that you have to use an exact word from the passage. So in this case, when you're filling in the gaps, make sure you use an exact word from the passage as mentioned and shown in the instructions. So always read the instructions carefully to know how many words you can use for an answer. In the reading section, it could be up to 2 or 3 words that you're allowed to use to put into a gap to get the answer you need. So make sure that you're well aware of the best keyword strategy to use for the reading section. And again, if you subscribe to my channel, you can find lessons on the keyword strategy and lots of other things to help you with the reading section. And then once you've skimmed the passage, you've looked at the questions and skimmed the passage, then you begin to answer the questions. And this is where you scan the passage. Now you're not skimming, you're not reading every word. You're only scanning and looking at the important information that you've already marked and identified to answer the questions. And one other tip that you can do as you're going through the questions is cross out any, for example, in a question, you may be given options to choose from. And if you've clearly identified that one of the options is incorrect, just cross it out. Or once you've chosen an option, cross it out so that you're not distracted and looking at those options anymore. You're only looking at the rest of the options that are available for the remaining questions. So scan the passage, only look at the information that you've already marked as important. Cross out any questions that you've identified as incorrect, or cross out any questions that you've already chosen. And this will help you with your time, because you won't be looking over and over again at all the options, only the ones that you have remaining. There are some question types that do come in order, and these are ones where you do have to fill in the missing words. You have questions like true, false, not given, and yes, no, not given. Sentence ending questions, multiple choice, the regular type of multiple choice, where you're asked to choose from 3 or 4 options. These are the question types that come in order. So once you've found the answer to a question in the passage, you know that you don't have to look in front of that section anymore. You're just going to follow through the passage, and the questions will come in order in the passage. There are, however, question types that do not come in order, and you'll want to be aware of these. And these are any of the matching type questions, whether it's matching headings, matching paragraphs, or matching information. And there's also another type of multiple choice, which isn't the traditional type of multiple choice that you may be used to. It's where you have options to choose from. And so the options will obviously not be listed in order. So again, become aware of every type of question there is in the IELTS reading section. The link for my playlist where you can see a strategy and technique for every type of question is in the comments. So be sure to be aware of that as you prepare for test day. And that's it for the reading section. I hope you found this helpful. Don't hesitate to subscribe to my channel for more IELTS tips, and I look forward to helping you in any way I can. So don't hesitate to reach out if you have questions or comments on this lesson.